Hey there, here are the notes 8-7 on the small intestine that we talked about on Friday. The small intestine is the major site of digestion and absorption in your digestive tract. It extends from the pyloric sphincter, and the P and the H should be traded with each other there. The pyloric sphincter is the end of the stomach all the way to the ileocecal valve, which is the end of the small intestine, the beginning of the large intestine. In a dead person, it's about 20 feet long, but because it's made out of muscles, in a living person, it shrinks down to about 8 to 13 feet. It's divided into 3 sections: the duodenum, there goes my light, jejunum, and ileum. Alright, the duodenum, the first part of the small intestine, curves around and cradles the pancreas, hangs on to it, so because the pancreas dumps a lot of juices and stuff into the duodenum, so they need to have a close association with each other. The duodenum has this little thing, a duct leading into it, and right at the end of it there's this bulb or a bulge where the duct dumps into the duodenum, and it's called the Hepatopancreatic ampulla. Hepato refers to liver, pancreatic refers to pancreas, ampulla refers to bulb. So it's a bulb-like structure where 2 ducts come together, and we'll talk about which those ducts are in just a moment. And then when it enters into the duodenum, it makes a little pucker, a little bit like that, sticking out into the small intestine, and that's called the major duodenal papilla. And so this is the entryway for bile and pancreatic juices to make their way in. It is controlled by the sphincter of Oddi. I'm not exactly sure how to say that one. I should probably look that up. But that makes sure that the right amount of juices go flowing into your small intestine at any given time. Here's a little picture here showing the stomach in relation to the duodenum, and we can see that it forms a nice little curve right around the pancreas here. And we can also see that there are 2 things that come and dump into the duodenum. If we look a little bit closer, those 2 things come together and merge in this bulby area right here. That's the hepatopancreatic ampulla. It's kind of fun to say. And then on the inside, it makes a little in-poochie called the major duodenal papilla, and we can see that right here. So that's the inside of the intestine looking at the wall. Alright, the jejunum, the next portion, which we see down here in purple, is only about 8 feet long, so longer than the duodenum, not nearly as long as the ileum. There really is no structural difference between the jejunum and ileum. There's nothing dumping out into it. It's all pretty much exactly the same. The ileum and the jejunum hang from the mesentery in the posterior, the back half of the abdominal wall. The mesentery contains lymphatic tissues, blood and nerve vessels, and so that way your intestines can have blood and oxygen and food delivered to them, but then it can also have the pre-digested food sucked out of them. The absorbed blood that has all the nutrients in it goes straight to the liver, right over here, so that way it can be detoxified before it goes out to the rest of your body. Here's a picture of the duodenum and the jejunum and the ileum going over to your large intestine. Here's a picture what it would look like if you were to take a walk through your small intestines. But of course there'd probably be food in it, so this one has been nicely cleaned out for you. Yay. If we take a look at what a cross-section of your small intestine would look like underneath the microscope, we would see a couple of different things that allow your small intestine to do its job much, much better than normal. So there's 3 modifications that your small intestine has in order to allow you to absorb better than ever. One is called Plicae circularis. You might see it without the E, plica, that just means fold. Plicae means folds, plural. So, and then the aris part means of, so folds of the circle. These are circular folds of the mucosa and submucosa, which in turn make these things called villi. Villi are little fingers, finger-like projections of the mucosa made of columnar epithelium. Inside of the villi, what we find are capillaries, little arteries and veins that carry blood to and away from the villi, and something called a lacteal, which has to do with your lymphatic system. Then we have microvilli, which are just teeny tiny little projections on top of the villi, and it's just like almost like cilia in a way, sticking out from the columnar cells. So here's a picture showing all 3 things. Here's the folds. You can see those on the inside, so it gives a ridged or bumpy appearance. And then the folds on them have little fingers like this. So this is not a villi. These little guys are villi. So the big ones, those are the plica. And then the little ones are the villi. And then if we look up close, the top of a villi has even more little villi on there, microvilli. And if you notice that the villi only and the plica only deal with the mucosa and submucosa. Notice the muscular layer and serosa do not fold. Alright, the furry appearance that we see on the end of the villi, the microvilli, we give it the name called the brush border, which is a name given to the fuzzy appearance caused by the microvilli. And there's lots of enzymes, as you can see from these goblet cells here, that are producing mucus and enzymes and other things needed to help digest materials in your food. Now, your liver is closely associated with your small intestine due to the fact that it produces bile needed for the digestion of fat. It is the largest gland in your body. It contains 4 lobes. The biggest one is the right lobe, which is to the right side of your body. We have the left lobe, which is smaller, and it has a ligament right in the middle. Then we have the caudate lobe, which is kind of back and towards your tailbone, and the quadrate lobe, which is right next to the caudate. So let me show you a picture of that. Here we go. So here's the right lobe, the biggest one. And then kind of right down the midline, you've got the falciform ligament, which is this guy here. Coronary ligament, which actually is continuous with your diaphragm up top. Here's the left lobe right here. And then this one, the ligamentum teres, is also called the round ligament, and it is a leftover of your belly button from the inside. Here's a gallbladder. If we take a look at the underside of your liver, take this guy and flip it up, we can see the quadrate right here. So it's kind of like right here, tucked under. And the caudate, which would be way in the back there. Alright, so the falciform ligament, that's the one that separates the left and the right hand halves. And then we have the round ligament, or ligamentum teres, on the other picture. And this is what's left over of your umbilical cord. Well, the veins inside. Your liver is enclosed by visceral peritoneum, otherwise known as serosa. Your hepatic artery and hepatic portal vein enter the liver at the porta hepatis. So porta means to carry, so to carry things to the liver. Bile leaves the liver through several ducts and forms a common hepatic duct. So your liver makes bile, but we always think of bile going with the gallbladder. That's because the gallbladder stores the extra bile that you don't use right away and condenses it and saves it for later. So we got the bile duct comes out and it fuses with the cystic duct. That comes from the gallbladder. Cystic comes from the gallbladder, and then fuses, let's see, the common hepatic fuses with the cystic to become the bile duct. So here's a picture showing the common hepatic duct that the bile's coming out of. We also see the blood vessel, the hepatic artery, going to the liver, feeding the liver, and then we also have a hepatic vein, or the portal vein, which is going to the liver to be detoxified, and then it'll go to the heart. And here's just a cool little ultrasound showing here's your aorta right there, there's your backbone right there, there's your inferior vena cava, and this is all liver goodness right there. Alright, the gallbladder, big green poochy thing, is a thin-walled green muscular sac, about 10 centimeters long, which is about your finger. Stores bile that's not immediately needed for digestion, and the bile gets expelled through the cystic duct. So it goes in here. Okay, and then so this one has a very short one. This is a cystic duct. Sometimes they're a little bit longer. There's like 10 different styles of gallbladders to have and how they connect up to the common bile duct. The pancreas is also an incredibly important organ just due to the fact that it produces enzymes to break down everything. Nucleic acids, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids. It breaks down just about everything. So we need your pancreas nearby, and it squeezes out its juices through the main pancreatic duct, which runs down the length of the pancreas, and that fuses to the bile duct, where it then dumps into the duodenum. Now, the pancreas has 2 main types of cells in it, depending on what their job is. We have acini, another word I need to look up, how to say it properly. If it was Latin, it'd be acini. No, acini. It'd be acini if it was Latin. Pure Latin. These are secretory cells made of rough ER and contain zygomin granules, which contain enzymes. So the ZY reminds you enzymes. And so in this little picture, let's see, where do we have those? It's not in that picture. Oh no. And then we have the other type of cells, which are in here, called islets of Langerhans. So it's fun to say. These are little endocrine cells that release insulin and glucagon, which are both needed for regulation of blood sugar within your body. So you can see right here, here. Here's a little Langerhans, and then the cells secrete, goes directly into the bloodstream, which can then affect your muscles and wherever else sugar is found inside of your body. And this one is a little bit better one, showing you all the ducts and how they all come together. So right here we got the hepatic ducts. Hepatic means liver, so it makes sense that these are the ones that go to the liver. Cystic means bile, so the cystic duct comes from the gallbladder, which stores bile. They join together to make the bile duct, okay, and then they go down for a little while until the pancreatic duct comes down and joins with it, and then they make the ampulla, which is the bulge, and then the papilla, which is a little outpoochie into the small intestine. The end. Up next, large intestine. Bye-bye.